Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our newest episode. Kirsten and I are excited to actually be in the same place today. We're in sunny Sarasota, Florida, and we have a special guest coming to you today. Her name is Mary Ellen Ciganovich, but she goes by Ask Mary Ellen for fairly obvious reasons. And we are excited to have her as our special guest today. So welcome, Mary Ellen.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to all your many wonderful listeners. And I hope you get many tips out of what I'm going to bring to you today.
That is so awesome. We always like to find out, what was your journey? What brought you into coaching and how you help and serve people?
We don't want to go through all of it because it was fairly lengthy. But I was a teacher. I graduated from the University of Georgia, and I was in education. I taught middle school in the inner city for about 15 years. I didn't try to teach in the inner city, but that's just where I ended up. And I learned so much in that situation. I'd gone through a lot of trauma growing up, personal trauma. I was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 6, and I was told almost every day by my mother, you can't get married and you can't have kids. You can't do this, you can't do that. Of course, I was 6 years old at the time, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not that I didn't want to see, there were blue laws at the time that said that people with epilepsy couldn't marry or have kids because they thought it was genetically inherited. Now, that's not true. So I did marry. I'm on my second husband, so I married a lot. And I did have a daughter who was misdiagnosed with epilepsy when she was 3. And so I ended up taking her to the Yale New Haven seizure clinic to a world-renowned neurologist. And I learned that she was a perfectly healthy, normal child, that he didn't know who or why diagnosed her at the age of 3. But any 3-year-old's EEG, which is electroencephalograph, would be abnormal. Okay, I did not even have a thought about going back to the first doctor and suing them. Because, see, that was my greatest fear coming true. So we went on, and she's now a physician's assistant, climbs mountains all over the world. So she's doing great. And in 1989, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Okay, I had no preconceived picture as to what MS was or was not. I'd heard about it. And I remember looking at my daughter, who was about 8 years old at the time, and I was a single parent. Her dad had left. And I said, well, I handled the epilepsy, I can handle this too. It's been a little bit more challenging, yet in 1989, there were no medications for MS. There were no Avonex shots or anything. So I went on a spiritual, holistic journey, and I studied Ayurvedic healing, Chinese herbs, spirituality. I'd always been a student of the Bible to find cures for myself. And I came up with the 12 universal truths that God gives all of us to live by. And in practicing these truths and working these truths, it's not that my body doesn't have MS to deal with. Yes, it does. Yet when I am aware of my triggers, when I can control it instead of it controlling me, I can go forward and do whatever I want to do. I didn't let epilepsy stop me. I didn't let my family stop me. I'm not about to let MS stop me. And then, of course, I was teaching school at the time I was diagnosed, and I was like, I don't want the shots. And the MS Society told me, well, you just won the national lottery. And I said, well, you don't understand. And they said, we have people waiting in line. And I said, well, call somebody else. And I hung the phone up on them. And they're like, I just kept living my life. And I had this knowingness, and that is an important point. This knowingness inside of myself that I could control it instead of it controlling me. Whereas your belief always includes a doubt, but your knowing is your truth.
That's so powerful. And I think that applies to so many different areas of our lives. Even with being successful, I think about so many people who start their businesses, and they have that knowing that, yes, it's scary and there's a lot to take on, but I have a knowing that I can do it. I can make it happen. And I think that's so powerful. When you're working with your clients, how do you work with your clients to help them get to that place of knowing and helping them control whatever it is in their lives that they're struggling with?
It's interesting because so many people like their illness. They might be getting negative attention, but it's better than no attention at all. So they will refuse stubbornly to attempt to heal it. A lot of the clients that I have come to me with relationship issues. and they'll be going through a divorce or whatever, because the philosophy I teach is a philosophy of one finger out, three fingers back. Meaning the good you see in other people is the good you have inside yourself. And conversely, the things about other people that you see are God's way or the universe's way of teaching you what you still need to learn. And you might see something that's wrong. That's fine. If it doesn't bother you the next day and the next week, and then that's not necessarily in you. But if the next day and if the next week you're going, she was so jealous, I can't believe she did that, and you just keep going on and on, then what about that situation do you still need to learn? Are you jealous? Because that is why you are seeing it. Because if you're seeing it, if you're hearing it, and if you're feeling it, it's not the other person. It's always inside you.
So true.
So tell us a little bit about what clients do you work with? You've mentioned a few things, of relationship issues and things, but give us your core client base.
I don't know if I even have a core client base because I do couples therapy, I do divorce, I do grief. I have clients from all over the world that I do through either Zoom or sometimes they're on Instagram, and we'll connect that way. I have clients in this area. I have an office in my home, which I'm in right now. And if they want to come here, that's fine. If they want me to come somewhere else, I can do that. It's easier for me to work out of my office because of all of the different activities that I can pull for them to do. And I'll work with a client, and let's say I give them an activity to do and to come back with. And if they come back and they say, I didn't have time to do it. Well, these are short activities. They're not really long. So that's telling me that they don't really want the healing that I have to give. Okay, that's kind of strike one. We'll then do that activity together. And maybe the next time I'll give them an activity and they come back the same way. And I will tell them on the third activity, I said, if you come back this time and you haven't done it, don't waste my time or your money coming here, because no amount of what I say, none of the books that I wrote will help people, and not if you don't do the work. And it's in the work that you achieve the healing. In beginning to love yourself is the healing. And people will say, oh yeah, I love myself, or that's selfish. No, Christ said, love your neighbor as yourself. How can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself first?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. That's so true. Can you share a story, obviously without giving us your client's name or anything, but can you share a success story about one of your clients? And sometimes I feel like we all have those clients where it even shocks us, like how far they have gone, like they just achieved miracles practically.
Yeah, I had a client come over here, and he was just a handyman doing some tree work for us. And he was talking to my husband. My husband is very personable, and they were outside talking. And this handyman happened to mention to my husband, I really need someone to talk with. So my husband came in the house and he said, Mary Ellen, I think you need to come out and talk with, let's call him Billy. And I went out there and I was talking to him about what I do. And he goes, oh, I've got to get with you. And we worked for several months, and actually we worked at several months one year, and then he came back like for a refresher the next year, but he got off. And I don't tell people medications to get off or take, because I'm not a medical person. Okay. But he ended up getting back with his daughter. He got off tons of medications. He was happier. He now owns his own business. So to me, that was a true success story. And then I write a truth of the day all over social media every day. And anytime I have one comment, that truth really helped that person. That to me is a success story.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because I feel like sometimes for me, when I run across something on social media, it's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. Yeah. And do you feel like sometimes your messages get in front of people that just need it at that time?
Exactly. People will come back and say, how did you know I needed this today? I didn't, because all of my books and all of my truths of the day, I don't write them. I simply sit down in a quiet place and I ask God, what do people need to hear? And it was interesting because I never thought I'd be teaching mindfulness. I never thought I'd be an author or a speaker. And when I was first writing my first book, which is Healing Words, I started hearing all these little vignettes that are in the book, from unconditional love and fear and awareness and judgment, and even about death and faith. And I kept hearing them. And I was like, oh, it's God or your knowing speaking to you. And I said, look at me. I got glow in the dark blonde hair. I got long sparkly fingernails. Go tell them to somebody else. And he came back and he said, why do you think I put you through everything you've been through? I'm like, you could have told me when I was going through it. You know, all of our trials and all of our tribulations create these beautiful people that we become. And that's why my second book, Truth, Taking Responsibility, Unleashes True Healing, has a peacock on the front.
I love
Because
that.
the way peacocks get their feathers is through eating thorns. And the harder that thorn is to digest in the digestive tract, the more beautiful the color in the peacock's tail. And that's what happens with people. The harder it is for our lesson to go through. And the key is we learn from it, the beautiful, peaceful people we become. And then my last book, Truth Lives, is basically about helping people to change their attitudes. We see attitudes so negative and so horrible right now, teaching people how to think differently. Because I teach people there aren't problems. There are perceptions and misperceptions. And to the extent you think something is a problem, step back and look at it as a misperception. How can you perceive that differently? What do you need to learn from it?
We actually are, and we're in a coaching program together. And it's very similar mindset that in every challenge that comes your way, there's a gift or opportunity. And you may not always see it right away. It may take weeks or even years before you really see that gift in something. But I think for most of us, when we understand that that is a truth, that in every problem that you perceive as a problem, there's an opportunity, a solution, and often a gift, then you start to really look for that right away. And then you start to get that healing faster than you would if it took you years to come to the realization that what you went through actually was beneficial to you. So I think it's wonderful that you're teaching people that concept that if you can address it now, you can learn and grow more quickly. And like you said, become that beautiful person you're meant to be.
Right. I mean, it's for me, it's brought so much healing into my own life, which is why I began Real Health, and Real stands for really enthusiastic about life. Because when you're really enthusiastic about life, then you wake up every day, you're excited about what you're doing. You have a purpose, you have a passion, you have a knowingness that you're going to make a difference. And that's what I would like to teach all children, all people everywhere. How can you make a difference in our world? A positive difference? How can you inspire someone today? How can you be kind to someone today? And all of this starts with you inspiring yourself, you being kind to yourself, you loving yourself. It all starts with you.
Yeah, I think, Jeanne, I can honestly say, because we love what we do so much, like you get up every day excited, thinking about the people you get to talk to, the people you get to help. We have such amazing clients, and they're being brave, whether they're creating their YouTube channel or starting their podcast, they're being brave, or whether they're learning how to become leaders and managers of their team. And so I think when you have a passion in your life, when you are serving other people and helping them, it is easy to get up every day excited.
Exactly. And there are so many times when I'll just be somewhere, maybe in the grocery store, or nail salon, or wherever I am, and I'll overhear something. And so I'll make a comment that would help them, and they'll stop and they'll say, "Oh, wow, that's just what I needed to hear today."
Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't have to be a huge gesture. It doesn't have to be changing people's lives. It can be just a little comment or something that's going to make them feel good.
All right, Jeannie. People think that to perform an act of kindness, you have to give so much. If you can just give someone a smile. Yeah, I remember I was leaving the coffee shop one day and I had some cups, so I was going to back the door open, and this man was coming. And so I went out and I said, "Thank you for your kindness." And he did. He looked at me like I come from another planet. But I was like, I wanted him to know that I just didn't thank him. I wanted to thank him for his kind act that he just performed for me.
Oh, I'm going to try that. I want to try that and help someone. That's very powerful. I think, yeah. And I think also letting people know that you appreciate them, that we find with having a podcast like this, is we value and appreciate all of our guests, because we learn so much and we grow, and you guys are just blessing our lives and making us, giving us a more rich life. And so I think we don't often tell people that enough, like how much we appreciate the connection that we get to have with them.
Exactly. And do that with your family members. So many times we go out with our friends or with other people that we don't even know. We say how much we appreciate them, but our own family members here at home, we feel like we can dump everything on them. You can speak to them, but you speak, and I teach a communications workshop about how to say things where people will listen, because most of the time when you're speaking, people aren't listening. They're thinking about what they're going to say next to prove their point. So how can you get that point across in words that they will hear?
That has to be a very successful class that you teach.
That is a full one, that one, and relationships.
Do you work with your clients just one-on-one, or do you have group coaching, or do you have recorded programs?
I have groups where I meet, I do speaking engagements, wherever people want me to come, I go. What I call Of Minds Mindfulness group I'm beginning, because we are all one. There's not God and us. There's God in you and in Jeannie and in me and in every living thing on earth. There is only one, and we only have two emotions, love or fear. And
Right.
you're either coming from unconditional love or anything negative, you're coming from fear. So when you're coming from something negative, step back and ask yourself, what fear is running me? What is that fear?
Yeah, it is surprising how much and how often fear does run our lives, right? And I think
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
not conscious of it, it's very easy to believe that even though there's no proof that that fear is valid.
That's easy to let it run your life.
Exactly, because look at all the erroneous societal teachings we've been taught. We've been taught if you're a good mom, you're going to worry about your kids. Well, if you've been a good mom, why are you going to worry about your kids when they're gone and grown up? You know, you did your part. They have to live their lives. So many people ask me, well, when Stephanie's went to the base camp on Everest and went on Everest, didn't you worry about her? No, she's doing what she loved to do. I hope she comes back. And if she's doing what she loves to do, that's wonderful. Isn't that great? Isn't that the way all of us should live our lives?
Yeah.
And if you do that, you won't live with regret. I think so many people live small lives because the fear runs them. And then, they talk about people when they're on their deathbeds and older, when they're surveyed about what do they regret, they never regret the chances or the risks that they took, or the opportunities that they used to grow and to learn. But they always regretted what they didn't apply themselves to.
Exactly. I say the same thing. And one of the first questions I'll ask a client when they come to me, I'll say, what do you do for fun? And most of them will just look at me like, fun? Fun? I say, yeah, I go hang gliding. I do paddle boarding. I do zip lining. What do you do for fun? And they just have this blank stare, and it's sad.
Yeah, because oftentimes they'll probably say, I don't have time for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this has been amazing, Mary Ellen. Your company is called REAL, REAL, Mindfulness Center.
Correct.
And so for our last question for you is going to be, if you had one tip for everyone who's listening to make the world a better place, what would that be?
Live your life, be kind, and inspiring people as you inspire yourself to make the world a better place. And make sure you're doing something coming from your knowings, because your knowings are your truth. And a belief always, always, always includes a doubt and will stop you. But if you are always living from your knowings, you will know what's the right relationship. You will know any decision, any choice, any action you take. If you come from your knowings, it will always be correct.
I love that.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much, Mary Ellen. It's been such a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you and to learn from your knowledge. And we are going to put a link in the show notes as to how people can reach out to you.
Okay. It's just askmaryellen.com is my website. And they can go to all the social media sites the same way. Just Google Ask Mary Ellen and you'll find me and all the many articles and books and chapters in books that I've written.
So awesome. I love how you just give generously. You're giving content, you're giving chapters of your book, you're sharing because you believe in how it's going to help people. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. And I know your legacy that you're leaving our world is such a blessing. It's so wonderful. So thank you for having me as part of it.
Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.